I've written every single one of my books on this desk. My wife got me this desk, she surprised me with it, at an antique store in Ferrisburg, Vermont. And she found it for me because I had written a first draft of my first novel, and now I needed to type it up. And I was using a card table. And it was, the feng shui of a card table in this particular room was just depressing. But, we were in our mid-20s, we were very young, but she wanted to make the typing up of this book more pleasurable for me. And so she surprised me with this table, and I typed up my first novel on this table using a, Smith Corona electric typewriter, and did all my editing of that book on this table, and have written all of my subsequent novels on computers placed on this table. The next book I have a novel coming out called The Night Strangers. And The Night Strangers is a departure. It's a ghost story. It begins with a commercial airline pilot who has to ditch his regional jet in Lake Champlain a la Sully Sullenberger. But unlike Sully Sullenberger, his plane cartwheels in Lake Champlain and 3/4 of the passengers die on impact or drown, but not the pilot. So part of the book is figuring out how do you go through life in a post-Sully Sullenberger world when you're not Sully. But it took this interesting left-hand turn and wound up a New England ghost story as well. So it's a lot of fun. That book is done. It's in galley stages. So what I'm working on right now, and this is a pretty typical day, is I usually am sitting right here at about 6:30 in the morning, and I will write here until 10:30 or 11, maybe noon if it's a really good day, with the goal of producing 1,000 words a day. I don't always produce 1,000 words, but that's the goal. Then I'm likely to have lunch on the porch with my lovely bride, who's a photographer, Victoria Bluer. Her studio is actually right above me. As we speak, she is hand coloring a black and white image. And then after lunch, I'll go for a bike ride, or I'll go to the gym. And then I'll be back here by about 3:30 or 4. And then I will do all of the digital work that my books demand. And in the digital age, I spend an enormous amount of time talking to readers digitally via Facebook and Twitter and Goodreads and Shafari and my own website and old-fashioned email. And in the digital age, that's so important because novelists are no longer disembodied heads who exist on the flap of a jacket. That is one of the great gifts of the digital age. I love that part of the day. That's a pretty typical day. I have no idea what books are going to look like in 150 years. But one of the things I do know is that a library like the Lincoln Community Library will be every bit as vital and vibrant and vigorous then as it is now. And that's because libraries today are more than just big rooms full of books. They're community centers. Whenever I drop by Debbie's wonderful world of books here, there's all kinds of stuff going on, and it's multi-generational. There might be bone builders for seniors, there might be children's story hours for toddlers, there might be people on the computers. It's great. It's such a great vibe in a library. When you go to the library, you can find the single worst first novel ever published, bar none. There is no book you will find in any library worse than Christopher A. Bohjalian's A Killing in the Real World. But what's interesting about this book is, first of all, it is one of the only books not set in Vermont. Writers talk with an agonizing amount of hubris about finding their voice. Well, obviously, I found my voice in Vermont. But secondly, the blurb on the back is none other than James Patterson. So that's one of the things you can find at a library. But you can also find the worst New England ghost story ever written, Christopher A. Bohjalian. Yeah, Bohjalian wasn't complicating enough. I had to go by Christopher A. to make sure that it was completely incomprehensible. Hangman, about a young couple from Brooklyn who moved to a yellow Victorian in a village not unlike Lincoln. It's really a bad book. Not as bad as A Killing in the Real World, but never going to win any awards. The other books, and you can find these are the ones that aren't checked out right now. Transistor Radio, a book that has still got a soft spot in my heart. The Double Bind, about a social worker at a fictionalized version of COTS. In this novel, it's called Beds, the Burlington Emergency Dwelling and Shelter. What I lack in creativity, I make up for in good acronyms. Skeletons at the Feast, and you won't find this edition just anywhere. The American editions are clearly checked out. This is one of the UK editions of Skeletons at the Feast, my love story set in the last 6 months of World War II in Poland and Germany. My most recent novel, Secrets of Eden. This book did very well, but imagine how well it would have done if I had the common sense to call it Vampires of Eden. Then it would have really rocked. And this you will find almost no place other than wonderful libraries and eBay. The hardcover of Midwives. Whenever people think of Midwives, they think of the iconic blue cover and the Oprah's Book Club logo in the upper right-hand corner. You don't see this edition quite as often, but this is the hardcover edition, and I love this for a lot of reasons. I love this because, first of all, it's one of my lovely bride's beautiful photographs. This is a hand-colored photograph of our bedroom in our house in Lincoln, Vermont, and the spectral image of a woman leaving the bedroom was, at the time, our daughter Grace's babysitter, Jennifer Griggs, who's now a mom herself. So this is the hardcover Midwives, and these are just some of my books you can find here at the wonderful Lincoln Library.